None of us are. A little bit. That's okay. I'm Momma Atheist, same name as my channel, but you can call me Amanda. I'm an ex-astrophysicist. I'm a climate scientist. I do secular stuff on my channel, climate science. That's about it. Yeah, can anybody hear either of us? Yeah, they all say no sound. Just talk. We're talking today about the Great Barrier Reef and I don't want to say a colleague because he's not. I don't want to consider him. He's part of the community. His name is Peter Ridd, and he is a physicist who started working on the Great Barrier Reef in 1984 with I can't remember the name of the. Can anybody hear Nervardia? The Australian Institute for Marine Sciences in 1984 and started working on the Great Barrier Reef. However, sometime in 2003, he started just saying things that didn't really fit, that weren't well scientifically proven, that that were the opposite of what the rest of the scientists were saying. He became very vocal about it between 2013 and 2015, including calling the rest of us all frauds because we didn't follow along with what he was saying was happening with the Great Barrier Reef. He was claiming that climate science or climate change had nothing to do with what was happening to it. He also claimed that nothing was happening to it. So, yeah. I guess that's kind of the synopsis of who Peter Ridd is. He ended up getting fired from the university because he broke their ethics clause because he came out against other scientists calling them frauds. He specifically, he used his university account to attack other people in the community. And that was why he was fired, but he fought against it, saying that they fired him because he had a different opinion pretty much than the rest of the climate scientists, or he's not really a climate scientist, but the people in the community and the field itself. That's why he claims that he was fired. Not really true, but he ended up winning that case and winning a lot of money for it. So that's what we're talking about today.
Okay, so I'm assuming you guys can hear me now.
If you can hear Maro, let us know in the chat.
I should be, because it's saying that there is. I don't know what's going on. Every single time I open OBS, it changes its bloody settings.
Yeah, it's changing a lot.
Yeah, everyone blame that pig.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we're going to talk about this. So while I was fiddling around with, you probably answered this, but I was paying more attention to making this stream work for me. Not that anybody actually needs to hear my voice. So Peter Ridd, what did Peter Ridd actually specifically say about his colleagues? Like, why did he call them frauds?
He called them frauds because he said that climate change had nothing to do with the bleaching of the Great Barrier Reef. And if we could just talk about that for a second, the ecological phenomenon that is coral reef, specifically the Great Barrier Reef. The Great Barrier Reef itself, it lies outside of Australia, as everybody knows. It's over 100. It's like 134,000 square miles of reef, and coral reefs are the most vibrant and productive part of the marine ecological system. It produces more than anything else, any part of the ocean whatsoever. Something like 4,000 species of fish are known to live within reefs. Hundreds of species of organisms that we don't know about. They think there could probably be millions of things that we haven't discovered, because the coral reefs themselves, when alive, they create places for organisms and animals to hide, to breed, to eat. There's so much that the coral reef protects within the ecosystem, the marine ecosystem. It also protects the land because it creates a barrier that keeps the waves from completely eroding the shoreline as well. So one of a lot of the issues with especially the Great Barrier Reef is the warming of the oceans. That's specifically climate change related. Nutrient pollution from the Australian farms, because as farmland is created, the bush, the trees and things are taken down, and polluted water, stuff that has things in it from especially from farms, a lot of nitrogen and different not toxic, but chemicals that will end up bleaching the reefs themselves, will easily run into freshwater streams. And as we know, the freshwater streams run into the ocean, and this ends up bleaching the coral reefs too, as well as fishing industries and stuff that are killing the coral reef. So what's happening specifically with the Great Barrier Reef is nearly half of it has become bleached at this point. And once the coral reef has been bleached, it's dead and it can't produce any more reefs. I think it was Terry Hughes who said dead reefs don't create any more reefs. And that's the truth. Once they're bleached, there's nothing left that can come back from it. So the problem is, and we can tell, especially with the Great Barrier Reefs, because the northern part of the reef, where the water is warmer anyway, is bleaching much faster than the southern part of the reef, which is in a colder part of water. So we know that the warming of the water and the sediments itself is the reasoning. We have data that shows that climate change is the problem. Now, Peter Ridd claims a couple things. His hypothesis is a little skewed. He claims that, that climate change has nothing to do with the bleaching of the reefs, that it is a completely natural phenomenon, and also that the Great Barrier Reef is more healthy than it's ever been, which just clearly is not true. It can be seen to be not true. While it is true that normally reefs, coral reefs go through a cycle of natural bleaching every 27 years about, and it's only in spaces. It's not like the whole reef itself, but different parts will naturally bleach and be built back to life. And that's a 27-year cycle. But since the year 1980, those cycles have come together, and it's about every 6 years, and it's bigger patches that are bleaching naturally. So there is natural bleaching, but it's never been to this extent. It's clear that it's climate change that's causing this. And his hypothesis doesn't make any sense, because he's either saying it's happening, but it's natural, or it's not happening at all because the Great Barrier Reef is super healthy. So it doesn't even make any sense.
No, it doesn't.
Sorry, I rambled.
That's all right. Ramble away. As I said to you earlier, I'm expecting you to carry me on this one.
It's fine.
Because I'm so professional, as we've all discovered. Okay, so I actually saw on the news ages ago, and again, I've been still trying to fiddle around with OBS. So if you said this, I apologize. But when coral reefs get hot, when they release the algae, they release a chemical that's in a very similar shape to, what was that? There's that molecule that when they put in a cloud, it seeds the cloud to make it rain. Well, this chemical that they release is a very similar shape to that particular molecule. And they actually, when it gets hot, they release this chemical up into the atmosphere and actually causes rain. that's what I saw on the news years and years ago. I haven't actually read any papers or anything like that. It was just this really interesting thing that I and it's just stuck in my mind because I just went, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as the Great Barrier Reef dies, the less that happens and the drier it's going to become on the mainland of Australia.
Mm-hmm.
Which is...
Plus, as I mentioned, the reef itself protects the shoreline. And so when you have it drier there, as well as more precipitation in over the ocean, that causes more erosion to the shoreline as well. So...
Yes. So, as we all can tell, it is not good as a general rule, climate change.
It's pretty bad.
it's not something that is advisable, I've been told. I think that's a thing that we can probably agree with. I think we can probably agree it's human activity induced as a general rule.
Yes. The Intergovernmental Panel for Climate Change states that it is a 95% possibility that climate change is man-made. So we're going to go with yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's that 5%, but, as modelling gets
there are
better,
natural things, but
yeah.
95% pretty good. That's us saying we fucking did it. So
it's that margin of error. It's the 0.05 p value.
Yep.
Okay. So let's have a chat about his court case, because there's a lot of controversy over him losing his job, because people are going, some people are mainly the Murdoch media, climate change denialists, those sorts of people are going, academic freedom, and he wasn't able to do what he was supposed to do, what he wanted to say, he has every right to...
Well, he's a hero on Sky News. They love him.
Fuck him.
Play him, which, for people in America who don't know, Sky News is pretty much the Australian Fox News, I guess. I mean, it's a Murdoch-run company.
Yeah.
And also there's this thing called the Institute of Public Affairs that he's a huge part of now as well. This was after he was fired from the Institute for Marine Science. And the Institute of Public Affairs is a climate denying group. That's what they do. They spread,
misinformation.
Yeah, about climate change in order to the same kind of stuff that the right-wing media and things do. He is very popular with them as well. In fact, they made an 11-minute video about him just having all these people that they considered, in the field, which really weren't, saying how wonderful he is and how he stood up for truth and whatnot. But I think the issue here is, obviously, as scientists, we can disagree. I mean, we wouldn't have science if we didn't have people, if we didn't, our objective is to take a hypothesis and try to prove it wrong. It's okay to disagree with each other. It is the way that he went about it that was wrong. And that was the reason that he got fired. It's how he came out, like I said, using his university login and everything, calling his colleagues frauds and saying that they were wrong. In the time that between 2003 and 2015, Peter Ridd wrote 9 papers that were all pretty much debunked by the rest of the community as being full of misinterpretation. He used a lot of selective data. So he took the data that was available to him and only used what fit into his narrative, instead of taking the data as a whole, which is scientists, is what you're supposed to do. You're not supposed to just pick and choose which data to use, and just complete oversimplification of what was happening in the Great Barrier Reef. And that was why he was told that he was wrong. Mm-hmm. And he decided, nope, not only am I right, but everybody else is lying, and I'm going to say that. And so that, I think, is the real issue. Like I said, even though he is wrong, he has a right to question things. But the way you go about it, you don't you don't attack colleagues. He called them frauds. He called them untrustworthy people he worked with at the university and the Institute for Marine Science. He went after them, and that is why he got fired, and that is what he did wrong.
Yeah. So basically, don't be an asshole is what we're saying. Because he was. I'm just trying to find a thing that I found that helps, doesn't it? It's from Science Direct. And it's called Support for Improved Quality Control, but Misplaced Criticism for Great Barrier Reef Science. Reply to the viewpoint, the need for a formalised system of quality control for environmental policy science by P. Lycom and P. Ridd, Marine Pollution Bulletin, 126, 449, pages 449 to 461, 2018. And I'm just trying to share my screen, so this little pop-up's going to come on top of there we go, share. All right, so I'm going to go and do. Sorry, everybody, we're just going to ignore that because, again, OBS is
interrupting her.
Fucking OBS, seriously. Okay, and I can't change that. I can't change it without going for about 5 minutes with fucking. Okay, I'm sorry.
All right, I'll just go back.
All right, well, I'll just read it out to you, and I'll just put a link in the description below for this. All right, I'm just going to put a link in the chat if you want to follow along. So I'll just do that. Everybody who wants to read along with me, I apologize. OBS, as I said, likes to change its settings on you every 5 fucking minutes without letting you know, because that's just, yeah. I'm sorry.
I've been told that slobs is greater than OBS. So
Papa. Now the Papa's made a noise. You're going to have to bring it up and make everybody go and show to the audience and everyone how adorable it is. While I quickly got and try and figure out what's wrong with our audio, with the audio. So I'm joking. Yeah. So Nacho guys, it reverts audio inputs when Windows does its update. Ferk. That would explain some things. Okay, so every single time I open my my computer and update my computer. Okay. Is anyone getting a little bit of feedback from me through Amanda? Can you? Okay. Okay. So what was I saying? Okay. So let's start again. There is there's a thing called there's a thing that I found online. It is a Science Direct article that's a response to Peter Ridd's thing where he basically talks about the reproducibility of research. Do you want to have a chat a bit about that, because he uses that as a way to say that it doesn't he uses that as a way to say it. Let me think. This is just a disaster, isn't it? He uses the reproducibility of science.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No, I know this one. He has this claim that the past science, the past biomedical science that they found out, about 80% of it, they have found to be untrue, and they have redone the research and revised their hypotheses and their finalizations, which is true. But this is a false equivocation because it's biomedical science. It has nothing to do with climate science whatsoever. So there's no reason for him to be bringing this up. Yes, guess what? Science fucks up sometimes. We don't always know exactly what we're talking about. We don't always, figure out, we don't make the correct interpretations. Science changes, but we're able to say, yes, we were wrong, and find out more and move on. However, his claim here about 80% of biomedical science has been proven wrong has zero to do with climate science. So it's, like I said, false equivocation has nothing to do with the one thing, has to do with the other. I don't know why he pushes this rhetoric so hard, because it's idiotic, and everybody in all of us know that it is. It makes no sense.
It's like asking a neuroscientist to comment on the latest black holes science. Yeah, it's sort of like, what the fuck would they know about high level? Like, they're doing high level biology, not high level astrophysics. It's completely different. Yeah.
That's a funny thing about being a scientist, though, is that people will think that you just know every discipline and will ask you questions about shit that is not in your area of study whatsoever, but you're a scientist, so you must know.
Exactly. So this, I thought it was really interesting. I thought the same thing. It's like, it's biomedical science. It's not, and like the IPCC, IPCC. They have like one of the largest cohorts of scientists from all fields of science, not just
climate science.
Yeah, not just climate science. They're talking about.
It's because climate science itself, it's a lot of disciplines. When getting my master's, I had to learn a lot about chemistry and biology and geology and physics, which I already knew, but there's so much that encompasses climate science. So the Intergovernmental Panel of Climate Change brings in scientists of all disciplines as well as climate scientists to figure this shit out, and it is extensive, and they are definitely the people you go to when you have a question. So so the IPCC has a huge number of people, massive groups of people. And was it 9? I know this is a 95. Bit 95%. Oh no, 99 or something. 99% of scientists. 97% agree that climate change is real. It's 95% of the IPCC that believes that climate change is man-made. Those are the numbers.
Okay, so the IPCC believes that there's a 95% chance, or 95% of people in the IPCC?
No, it's a 95%. Sorry, I said that right. It's a 95% chance that climate change is man-made. However, 97% of scientists believe that climate change is real.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. So those numbers are pretty high. I mean, you've probably got a couple of scientists that think vaccines don't work and are evil and terrible. So, they're like, and that's the problem with the appeal to authority. Everyone's like, oh, appeal to consensus. Like, consensus has been wrong and blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, occasionally, yes, it's been wrong.
Yeah.
Like there was a consensus that the brain doesn't heal itself, and now we know that to be incorrect. However, I don't think there's been a consensus that's so strong that has ended up being incorrect, because there was still people genuinely doubting and that it would happen. And there wasn't in regards to the brain not healing itself. And that's a small, very niche scientific branch of scientific research. This isn't climate change, which is not niche at all. There's huge numbers of scientists, as we mentioned earlier. So, oh, Papa! The thing that I have a problem about Peter Reid is the fact that he's been given the same treatment that everyone else would have had in if they'd done the same thing. So, for example, as he said, he called his people frauds, and that trashed their reputation, trashed the university's reputation. And then it turns out that he did that, and so he got fired by James Cook University, that is his employer. If he'd undergone that, if he was in chemistry and he did the same thing, and his thing he was fighting against, that carbon life forms don't exist on Earth, carbon-based life forms don't exist on Earth. He would still be fired, not for saying something ridiculous that carbon-based life forms don't exist on Earth, but his attitudes, and they're now using him as a martyr complex kind of thing. So, do you want to talk about?
Do you think that it because hold on 1 second, because he falls on the right and he has people of support like Murdoch? Coffee, please. Angel came home from work. Sorry.
Hi,
because he has support from Murdoch and the very far right. Do you think that helped him in terms of winning his lawsuit and stuff, because of the push and the victim mentality that comes with that, because they fought against the left itself, saying that they were quieting him because he had different views, which wasn't true, but tends to be their narrative a lot of the time.
I don't know, to be honest with you, because I'm not in academia. I'm still going through my degree, so I don't really know the inner workings of academia to the point that someone like you would know. But I would say there's a good possibility that was an influence. I would say that's a good possibility, that he had media push behind him and powerful friends.
Yes,
really that's not a controversial thing to say, I don't think. He's got his job back, didn't he?
I don't remember if he got his job back. I know he got a shit ton of money, though.
That's wrong. Yeah, in my opinion.
It's just like we said. I mean, as Mero and I, being in the science field, there's nothing wrong with somebody who disagrees with anything that we put out there. But that is what we do in science. Is if we mess up, we move forward, we learn new things. That's what science is discovering things. So if somebody says you're wrong, and this puts forth a reason, and it's reasonable and well studied and well thought out, and whatever. That's, we're never going to say don't do that. It is what he did and the way he went about it, and how, and like I said, calling people at his university, let alone people in climate science and working at the Great Barrier Reef and people in the Marine Institute of Study, calling them frauds and calling them liars, and doing so just constantly and through his university account, it was wrong. And we don't treat each other that way, because that invalidates us in the future. Because then it's so easy afterwards to just keep calling everybody frauds, and nobody believes in any of the science anymore. We can't do that. We have to respect each other as scientists, whether we agree or not.
Yeah. And that's an issue. That's an issue.
Yeah.
I mean, again, let's just take him out of the entire equation. If you think about the behaviour, if your work colleague just sent everybody emails telling everyone that you're an evil, like you're a fraud, doesn't matter. Could be whatever. Like, it can destroy your reputation. And like, people here, like, it's sort of a good example right now is like hydroxychloroquine. All you need is one person to say one thing and people will latch onto it. It is easier to spread a lie and have a lie be spread than the truth. And so if a highly regarded person is going around saying that you're a fraud, or if trashing your reputation, then if you're innocent, like how often have you heard the stories of a person being accused of sexual assault or something like that, and it turns out that they are not, they were innocent. Their lives will still be ruined, even if it turns out that they're innocent.
Plus, pushing this sort of narrative, it allows for the conspiracy theory crowd to have something to latch onto. Because the more it is spread that scientists are liars and frauds and all this stuff, which I have never met a scientist in my life that had any agenda other than searching for the truth. Not one. And I've been working in scientific fields for 16 years now, 17 years, something like that. But by doing stuff like this and having someone that he was respected in the field. Like I said, he'd been working at the Institute since 1984. He was respected. For someone to come out and call his colleagues frauds allows for that narrative to get pushed by people who don't want to believe in scientists, who don't want to believe that vaccines work, or that climate change is real, or any of this, or, glom on to studies like, well, I read a thing about hydroxychloroquine. Even though all these doctors and scientists say it's wrong, well, I don't believe them because I know they're frauds. And that is a big issue as well.
Yeah. So, in your opinion, do you think he was treated fairly by the university? And do you think he was treated fairly by the media?
I don't know as much in the media. I know that in terms of the university, he broke their code of conduct. That was very clear by the way the things he said about his colleagues and people in the community. So I don't think he was mistreated by the university. In terms of the media, I don't know as much because I don't live in Australia, but what I have read, it goes both ways. There are lots of right-wing sources that are latching onto the things he's saying because it fits their narrative. And then there are the more honest sources that are just like, hey, he's fucking wrong. He shouldn't have said this. He shouldn't have done this. So,
yeah, because the reason why I brought you on, but now that OBS has decided to change my sound settings because fuck you, OBS. I wanted to talk about a video I did last week, which was I did it on conversion therapy, where someone called Martin Isles, who is a representative of the Australian Christian lobby, who, that was a very, very frustrating video to do, and yet people seem to have enjoyed it, so it looks like I'm going to have to attack them a couple of more times because you all hate me, clearly. But he does talk about this thing, and he talks about an interview that he did with Sky News, and that he apparently was really, he was calm and considerate and whatever. But the thing is, someone can be calm and considerate and polite if you are in a non-hostile situation. For example, one of my first ever streams, I interviewed someone who ended up screaming at me for 45 minutes. Yeah, that basically.
John Peterson's stream?
No, yeah, John Richards.
Richard, sorry.
Yeah.
So many Johns.
Yeah, many Johns. John Richards interview, that interview.
That was hard to watch.
It was hard to do.
But the thing was, you were being so nice, and all of us in the chat were like, "Fuck him!" Into it.
But like right now, I mean, if I was a climate denialist, you would not be as nice as you are right now. You would probably be tearing into them, in your unique way of tearing into people. So the fact that somebody is nice and calm and respectful means sweet FA, to be honest with you. And
it's like Trump being on getting interviewed on Fox News. It's a softball interview for him because they worship him. So regardless of what his narrative is or what rhetoric he's using that day, he's still going to be calm and happy because that's his people.
Yeah, exactly. But this, I think, in regards to Peter Ridd, in regards to the media, more neutral media such as the ABC, which is the Australian Broadcasting Corporation here, they are actually publicly funded. So they've got a really strict policy to try and be as neutral as possible. Some people are calling it far left, which is fucking hilarious. But they've basically just reported on the facts. They have very not very loaded language. Opinion pieces, not so much. But they're opinion pieces. But the actual media reporting, very, very neutral.
Yeah, I read an opinion piece by Peter Ridd on. Yeah, I read an opinion piece by Peter Ridd on Fox's website, and it was not great. So, no, opinion pieces are never neutral. But they do the same thing here. The very extreme right-wing media, anything that doesn't agree with them is extreme left. So it's the same everywhere.
Yeah, and that's that Murdoch media. And he's probably the worst thing to have happened to the world in recent living memory, in my opinion, because he owns media in Australia, America, UK, probably other non-English speaking countries as well. In my opinion, he's the reason why we've got people like Trump and Boris Johnson and
omnipresent.
Yeah, he's everywhere, and he's running a media.
One of the reasons we have Trump.
Mm-hmm. So I think he was Peter Ridd was unfairly treated in the media, in the sense that he was treated too well by the media, by Murdoch media. So because it was that
they made him into a hero on Sky News or whatever that.
Sky News, yeah. Sky spews, basically, really. I have a client that whose father watches that, and it's just like, oh, I can't say anything because it's my job, and it's just like, I just absolutely hate it. Yeah, and
Well, if it makes you feel any better, my parents watch all the Fox News.
yeah, and it's sort of
So bad.
if you know what propaganda looks like, if you know what propaganda is, you're like, this is fucking good. Like, it's propaganda. It's propaganda. One of the things that they said was,
It's so obviously so. Yes.
yeah, one of the slogans that Sky News has is, was it Sky News for opinions you can't ignore. And I'm like, well, I can ignore them because they are opinions. So anyway, I just thought it was interesting. But yeah, as I was saying, I think Peter Reid was unfairly
Yeah. Why are you supposed to be listening to opinions?
No. And as I said, Peter Reid was unfairly treated by the media in the sense he was treated too well by it. Yeah, so with all of the crap that he puts out, did you actually wanted to? You've debunked a lot of what he said in regards to the Great Barrier Reef dying but not dying and things like that. Is there anything that you feel that you haven't covered regarding the Great Barrier Reef that you want to talk about? And then I can sort of say hi to the chat, because I haven't said hello to the chat. We've been going for possibly about 50 minutes. So I'm sorry, chat. I have been watching you and reading everything. So thank you very much for coming. I did say hello to you earlier, but we weren't streaming at the time. So
yeah, I mean, yeah. I guess in terms of the Great Barrier Reef, just keep in mind it's ginormous. Like I said, it's like 104,000 square miles worth of reef. It is very important ecosystem wise, but half of it seems to be bleached and dying right now, which is a big fucking deal, regardless of the fact that there is natural bleaching events which are getting closer and closer together. It's never been anything like this. Now, there's one thing that Peter Reid mentions, and it's the fact that we don't have a lot of data on the Great Barrier Reef or coral reefs itself prior to 1970. They weren't researched as much, if at all, before that time. So we knew stuff was happening with the environment. So we knew what a big deal ecologically the reefs were themselves. So yes, that's an issue, but we can see how they respond and how they react and be able to tell what kind of cycles they've occurred throughout the years. And just the fact, like I said, half of the Great Barrier Reef is fucking bleached. This is a big problem. It clearly has to do with the warming temperatures of the ocean, as well as a few other factors, but climate change is definitely causing this. And we have a consensus. We have a lot of data on it. We've done a great deal of research on it. Yes, we're fucking right. And he went about his disagreement very wrong. So that's about it.
All right. Okay. Fair enough. Okay. So I think we pretty much covered everything. Does anybody in the chat have anything to ask? I've got a feeling a couple of you might be experiencing buffering. I do apologize for that. I'm going to actually wrap this up. Does anybody have any questions in the chat? And I also want to say a very special hello and thank you to everyone who has joined. Critical Cripple, as always, you're here. Because Critical Cripple is omnipresent. Brainbug, Lone Wanderers, Aunt Joe, Vibrantly Brantley, Godless Granny, Hans, P.S. Hansen, Jess G. I did see a couple of other people. Speaky Bad Hair, alias fake name. Who else is around? Math Pig, hello. Stool, hello. Hello, Cadence. How you going? Not Joe Witness. And there's probably people and anyone else I have missed. I think I've got Grumpy Old Dave's here. And anyone else that I've missed, I apologise. I do think I've got everyone.
Diana.
Ooh. Lavender Lady's in. Hello. Oh, and Brainbug, if I said Brainbug.
And Cadence.
Cadence? So thank you everyone for coming. Apparently there was a glitch in the Matrix. I'm sorry. That sometimes happens when the portal between the non-existent plane of existence and the existent planes of existence occasionally, they need to find another star to destroy to get the energy from. So when that happens, we do sometimes get a little bit of that connection problem. So yeah. And so I just wanted to say that. All right, well, so again, Amanda, who are you? Where are you? Why are you? How are you? And all that sort of stuff. Let me know what you're doing, what you're planning on doing, that sort of stuff. Shill away. Be that NASA shill that you are.
A terrible shiller, but I'll do it. Yes, I am a NASA shill, that's for sure.
Clearly.
I'm an atheist. My channel is the same name. I do climate science and secular stuff. This weekend, I have Holy Kool-Aid on at 10 p.m. Eastern. But I'll be taking a break for a little while. I'm having surgery next week, so I'll be out for a little bit. But I do have a Dark Matter cartoon coming up within the next couple weeks, probably. Yes.
Ooh.
So that's about it. That's me.
Yes. I personally also have got some things coming up. I have decided to change my my YouTube to having a stream one week and a edited video the next week, just to give me a little bit of a break. We're still in that teething moment, so next week I'm going to be doing a stream and probably releasing a video that I did with Cyrus. He's already shown it on his channel, so I'll be releasing that tomorrow. He's already shown it on his channel. But if you don't know who Cyrus is, and you're here, I'm slightly surprised, to be perfectly frank with you. But I do strongly suggest you go and check out Cyrus as well, just giving him a bit of a shout out. Also, please go check out Momma Atheist. She does a fantastic job doing stuff. And yeah, so how long have you been as climate scientist, by the way? Just out of curiosity.
I've been a climate scientist for about 8 years.
And before that, you were an astrophysicist, weren't you?
Yes, astrophysicist before that. And I moved over to this.
So you went from no one actually listening to you but thinking you're cool to no one listening to you and thinking that you're an evil asshole.
Yeah.
Vibrantly Brantley, yes, I will be answering soon.
I get a lot of it.
Vibrantly Brantley, yes, I will be answering super chats. You're my first super chat, so thank you very much for the $2 super chat. Anyway, so that's what's happening on Thursday. Hypothetically, theoretically, hoping everything goes right, because the world. I will also be doing a stream with someone called Almost a Doctor on Thursday for Cynosium. So come and check that one out as well. Anyway, I just wanted to say thank you everyone for joining up. Thank you for Amanda. I apologise again for OBS just to change all of my settings, because apparently it thinks that its default settings are better than what mine are. So anyway, thank you very much for everyone for coming. I hope you have a wonderful day, evening, night, whatever, and